Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's July 27th. These are your headlines. First up, we've been hearing about some much nicer striped bass moving into the Monomoy rips this week. Also hearing about that nearshore tuna fishery within sight of the windmills south of Block starting to fire up this week. And we've got lots of exotic species. We've got cobia, we've got Spanish mackerel, we've got triggerfish, and yes, the first few albies of the season in this week's report. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
Before we begin, we've got a couple news items to throw your way, and the first one is an update on what's going on in the Dreamboat Challenge.
We could call this the week of the fluke, with 3 heavyweights hitting the board. Wading River, New York's Peter Shembri started the bidding with his 8th place 9.75 pounder. Phil Lopiccolo of Islip, New York landed himself in 2nd place for the category with this 11.46 pounder, and our new fluke leader is Jeffrey Harrison with this 12.13 pound Nantucket doormat. We also had an 8th place sea robin landed in by Mike Pearson of Islip, New York at 2.50 pounds. All these high fluke scores whittled Luke Citrarelli's final score down to 16 points, and that 2.5 pound sea robin stole a point from Eddie Terrabile. The top 3 look like this. Luke Citrarelli is sitting in 3rd place with 16 points. Eddie Terrabile is in 2nd with 20 points. And Bobby Cifarelli remains at the top with 25 points. The Dreamboat Fishing Challenge is the Fisherman subscriber-only multi-species fishing competition with a chance to win a new 21-foot Steigercraft center console powered by Yamaha, along with many other great prizes. Visit thefisherman.com to subscribe and get all the details so you can be part of the action.
And the next thing, of course, is the giveaway, which concludes today. And I picked my 3 winners, and I have to say this was maybe the best one out of all of them. Got dozens and dozens and dozens of photos this time. We got all ages, we got people with all different types of fish. It was really fantastic. So we are going to start another one today. I haven't even decided what I'm going to give away yet, and I don't even know exactly when it's going to end, but it's going to end sometime in October. And next week I'll have more details on what I'm going to give away, but you can go ahead and go through the same process. Just email them to me at danderson@thefisherman.com. Just make sure you put your name in the body of the email and put contest or giveaway in the subject line so I can filter them out. And then you can also text them to me at the number on the screen. And once again, just include your name and contest so I know what your intentions are. And we'll continue on as we have and start up another one. And so now, without further ado, let's announce the winners. And the 3rd place winner comes from Ryan DeFaria. This is a Bristol Harbor striper. This was entered earlier in the contest, and it's just a really nice photo. The fish is clean, happy angler, beautiful sky, and I like the composition too. I like the way he's not perfectly centered in the frame. Really nice photo. So he's going to get himself a Game On Lures prize pack. The 2nd one goes to Ted Nesius. This is a 50-plus pound rooster fish, which is a badass fish, and that's a badass photo. That's it's a bucket list fish for me. Awesome photo and awesome fish. So he is going to get the no live bait needed paddle tail pack. And then the last one comes from an angler named Matt. He actually didn't give me his last name, but we're not going to penalize him for that. This is a 52-pound striper, 51 inches long, taken on live bunker, and beautiful shot. I mean, look at the sky in the background. Look at the adoration of the angler. I just love everything about it. And I want to thank everyone who participated, and just tell you all that I'm looking forward to the next one.
I'm Captain Greg DeBrule of the party boat Blackhawk out of Niantic, Connecticut. You've seen us at the sport shows, you've seen us on TV, magazines, newspapers. Now you can come fish with us, okay? We're fast, we're clean, and we're comfortable. And besides that, we catch them, ask around. Come visit us at Blackhawk Sport Fishing Sadbrook.com. We'll save a seat for you.
Now jumping over into the fishing reports themselves, I'm not going to spend too much time in Maine this week because the people I talked to up there told me nothing changed. So, you know, good striper fishing up there, and I've heard some really good striper reports now from New Hampshire waters as well, so just a lot of northern New England striper action right now. Hopping down over the border into Massachusetts, we'll start the Massachusetts portion off with James Jewkes.
Well, had a vacation last week over on Block Island. Wasn't the greatest, it was a grind. But we got fish, had a blast. Back to the grind on the mainland. Up here on Plum Island this morning, catching some sunrise. Well, word is that the freshwater guys, they're getting fish still. Yeah, there's some pike being caught, and some catfish and carp at night. It's all good. They're not in the river though. The river is absolutely gross. With the CSOs, the combined sewer outflows happening, it is terrible. Hopefully you can get them cleaned up in there and gets back to some fishing in the Merrimack. But the other tributaries and ponds and lakes, they're all doing pretty well. Still, water temperatures are up. It's a grind out there. But I've been more concerned with the stripers. And it's a grind here also. What I can say is the guys on the beaches that are bait fishing with the mackerel, clams, worms, they've been doing okay. Not great, but okay. The guys doing fishing with eels, plugging at night on the beach, it's been terrible. But if you're up above Plum Island or below Plum Island in the Gloucester area or the New Hampshire area, things are a little bit better. It's still a grind. We're in the summer doldrums. Things aren't fantastic with the fishery. But if you're out there, you see mornings like this, sometimes catching fish is secondary. But anyways, Dave, that's it from up here. It's still gorgeous and beautiful. Few more weeks, maybe 3 weeks, we'll get pushing towards the fall run. Hard to believe already. Oh, I gotta go. Almost looks like a school of pogies over here. Gonna do a little top water. All right, Dave, over and out.
And now heading down into the Boston metro area, I've been hearing about a lot of striped bass action in the, suburbs. So like Gloucester and Marblehead and Nahant and Scituate, Plymouth. All of these places are putting out some really nice fish. Particularly seems to be Marblehead, and then really, really good action coming from Scituate right now. First and Third Cliff, I've been hearing really good things from there. Been hearing a lot of good stuff from the ledges too, like Minot and some of the other ones that are not too far from there. Some really nice sized fish. It's been a lot of eels. A lot of guys fishing eels to get these fish, but the surf guys have been doing well on needlefish at times as well, and even some swimming plugs also. So just seems to be a good concentration of bass in that area right now. In the Boston Harbor Islands, we're also hearing about some big bass there and a lot of big bluefish. So very, very good fishing in that region right now. Something you can definitely count on if you live in that area or if you're traveling there. Heading down to the east end of the canal, some of these fish that have pushed through are now starting to populate outside the canal. And this happens every year. We get these roving schools of big stripers. Sometimes they go up along Sandy Neck. Sometimes they take a left, go up along Scusset and end up in Plymouth like they did last year. But in either case, they're big fish, and the best way to get them typically is to fish with live eels, unless they find some bunker like they did last year and then it becomes a bunker game. Right now, it's anybody's guess as to where they're going to go, but they are starting to sort of gather outside the east end of the canal, so that's something you should definitely keep an eye on. Heading out to the tip of the Cape, we've heard about some more haddock fishing out in the really deep water, like 230 to 265. feet of water. And the tuna bite is still going on, not nearly what it was, but still people catching some decent fish out there. And then of course you've got the canyons, which have been popping off hard for at least a week now. For more on that and some of the other things happening on the Outer Cape, let's toss it over now to the guys from the Goose Hummock Show.
What's happening, everybody? It's your boy Bags, Phil.
Boy Phil.
Hey, beach has been super hot this week. This has been the ticket for me. These black ghosts, the Ozuri. I was rummaging through all my super overstock, discombobulated back in my Jeep, trying to find any plug in this color. Mag Darter was doing really good on. My buddy had the one size bigger last night. Got a couple fish on it, but the minnow is killing it, especially early in the tide. These things run really shallow, and I'm casting up on the sandbar, and they were just couldn't have enough of it. On another note, freshwater's been really good. Kind of like dawn and dusk are your hot times. My buddy went out yesterday, fished the local pond, got over a dozen bass on topwater. So it's a good afternoon. Don't forget your bug spray, because he was absolutely getting eaten alive. He was dealing with it because the bite was hot, but don't forget your bug spray. Boom.
Boom. Tuna side. Yesterday it really started to kick off out east. So tuna bite is really good. A lot of big fish actually caught yesterday. The smaller fish are still a little bit skitty. So the bait guys are doing great. If you do have the right license and you are chasing big fish, make sure you get a buyer before you go. There was a lot of fish caught yesterday. I firmly believe the buyers are going to start getting more selective, so please ensure you have somebody who's going to take your fish. Otherwise it's a waste and a discard, which still goes against the quota, which is not cool. So, but if you're not commercial bait fishing, the pop thing has slowed down a little bit. It's turning into a jig bite as the fish are deeper. Here we have the new Tommy Longnut from the Mighty Fish. Get bent on that. It's a really good budget jigging stick we designed over the winter. Pair that with something like a Gosser 18K or the Saltist. Great jigging reel, high speed. On the jig side of things, Streaker from Nomad was getting it done last year big time, as was the Johnnies. That did well. We brought these in this winter, and it's just really cool, the K-tie. I think these are really nice looking lure. And somewhere out there on a container ship is a whole new Mighty Fish range of jigs. Got a whole new range. And in the next week, I should have BKK have very kindly made us some long assist hooks. So on these big longer jigs, rather than having the hook here, we're going to have the hook dead center, which is roughly where you want it. So the jig bite's really good. Get on it. I think what's going to happen over the next week or so, there's a huge body of fish at the canyons. The OBBC tournament, the canyon tournament, was insane what everybody was catching out there. I fished it 2 weeks ago. There was a ton of 60 to 70 inch bluefin. They will come out of that warmer water, which means I think the bar bite is going to kick off again as Jakey can panoramically look around. We are not short of bars. We have a lot of Tormenta. We have got the chatterbaits. Exciting on the chatterbait side, I'm going to have the new wing mines in stock. Justin shipped those to me yesterday, so we've got a heavier duty, and they've got their new squid colour, which is a really, really squiddy kind of looking colour, but we'll post that separately. So in summary, freshwater, pretty good. Beach, he was belittling.
Phenomenal.
The beach is
60
off
fish,
the
nice.
bloody charts. It's phenomenal on the beach, and everybody can get there, and it's like Chatham to Provincetown on the outside. Fish in the morning, get on the flats. The fishing's phenomenal. On the boat side, we didn't really cover that for bass, Ian. I know the guys on Monomoy. Monomoy's just been kicking off the last few days.
Rips have been super. Hey, he puts it on me. I'm gonna smile and give a thumbs up. But yeah, I know the rips have been super hot. Lots of squid out there. So pull out the light rod, throw the dock or soft plastics. You know, those Scotch stripers are some of my favorite, and like the root beer, kind of like pinkish colors, or the ticket, maybe a 1 ounce jig head. You know, nothing beats a pink Ronzia Stonehorse. Quoted.
Amen. And there's a lot of there's a lot of bluefish around as well. So get your hard plastics out and your old wood out. Use a wire leader, or if you want to catch bass as well, go 60-pound fluorocarbon.
Yep. Yeah, I lost a couple of really nice spooks the other day, so I pulled out that Talking Popper XD, cast like a mile, and it caused the bluefish in big time. And for $14, can't beat it. Cool.
So there you go, guys. The fishing is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So get on it whilst you can, okay? Cheers.
Tie lines. Have a great day.
Heading down to the elbow of the Cape, going to go down to Chatham, go down to Monomoy. The Monomoy rips have been producing good catches of stripers for a few weeks now, but a new class of fish moved in. We've heard about a lot more 20 to 30 pound fish, and even a few fish touching the 40 pound range. Most of the big ones are coming after dark on eels, and they're mostly being caught by commercial fishermen, but it does show what's there. There's a much better class of fish that's moved in over the last 7 to 10 days, so that's another thing that you can hang your hat on there. Now moving down into Nantucket Sound, the fluking has been good, especially up closer to Nantucket, and this is where we got the first albie reports. These are 2 confirmed catches from 2 different people. One was Captain Sebastian of Fish Link Charters. That fish was actually caught on a jig intended for sea bass. It was just a feather jig with a little bit of a little squid strip on the back. I suspect the angler was just cranking it up to the surface to check if the bait was still there, and the albie crushed it. And then the other one came from a friend of mine who was out sea bassing, and a little school of albies popped up, and they were able to pull 2 out of it. I should follow this immediately by saying I don't think it's time to panic and start, taking days off of work and stuff like that. I think this is more of an isolated incident. And the funny thing is they showed up last year on the exact same day. On July 25th, we got the first albie reports last year as well. So they're going to fill in quickly. But again, I wouldn't be burning your sick temper just yet for albies. Now heading down into Vineyard Sound, the striper action along the Elizabeths has been getting better and better, especially over the last week or so. And to a lesser degree, you could say the same thing for the north side of the Vineyard. Surf guys are getting it done with soft plastics, with live eels, of course, with needlefish and darters. And then the boat guys are drifting through with eels. They're throwing topwaters and metal lips and things like that in early mornings up against the rocks. And but by all accounts, the striper fishing has picked up. I don't know if I'd call it amazing, but the bite has picked up considerably over the last 10 days. Jumping through the islands into Buzzards Bay, there was a pretty good pile of bass that kind of snuck under the radar up into the canal. Since then, the striper fishing in the eastern reaches of Buzzards Bay have been pretty slow, mostly just isolated schools of smaller fish. The big fish definitely went up into the canal. They went through on Friday. I was lucky enough to be there Friday morning, and it was definitely a top 5 canal experience for me, and that's 20 years of fishing the canal. It was, like I said, top 5 I've seen. A lot of big fish came through that day, and wasn't very crowded either, which is even better. Since then, it has continued. A lot of mackerel on the canal. The fish have been moving through. As of Wednesday morning, they were more toward the east end, and will probably push all the way through by the end of the week. But we've got minus tides coming up next week, and I would have to guess we're going to see more action like that. For a little bit more on what's gone on in the canal this week, let's toss it over now to East End.
Hi Dave. So things died down on the canal last week, but that quickly turned around on Friday when the whole canal seemed to explode with blitzes up and down the east end, the west end, the herring run, cribbing. Lots of stripers, acres and acres of striped bass breaking the surface and chasing whiting and small macks, tinker macks. So Breaking Bob Ware caught 19 fish one day. Quite a few of them were 20-25 pounders. And Zach Baker caught a bunch of above slots with his favorite lure, the White Fish Lab. It was actually the same lure that was being used by Breaking Bob Ware. And white seemed to be the predominant color recently. And experienced canal rat Kenny Nevins brought a lot of fish to the rocks, including a 30-pounder that he landed with a Yuzuri bone-colored twitch bait. Hollywood Petrarca caught a bunch of fish, including a 46-inch big girl and an East Tide. And Bill and the Grill Prados caught so many fish he lost track. His hand was cut up from taking the hook out of so many mouths. But Bill had a good day, caught a lot of fish, including a 35-pounder on a green Max swimmer. And so, you know, I've caught my share of above and below slots, but I have had trouble catching a slot. And my daughter, Christine, my youngest daughter, had asked me for fish for the table. So on Sunday, I was lucky. I hooked into a fish that was just less than 31 inches with a Bill Hurley canal killer, a white canal killer. And so Chrissy had fresh fish for dinner. So there is a family fishing night, July 27th, tonight from 5 to 8 on the Cape side of the canal at the Cape Cod Visitor Center, 60 Ed Moffett Drive in Sandwich. It's sponsored by the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries will be there providing a limited number of bait and rods for kids under 16. And it goes from 5 to 8 tonight. There's no pre-registration required, and it's all free. So sounds like a good thing for a good family fishing night. So my tip of the week is, if you have a canal bike and you need air in your tires, don't forget there's a tire pump, an air pump, right next to the DCR building where the state pier is. So it's on the west side of the building, and it's a nice free pump. You don't even need to put quarters in it. And they also have tools there, wrenches and screwdrivers in case you have to make a quick repair. So if you need air in your tires, just be aware that that's there. So until next week, catch a big one.
And then we'll wrap up the Massachusetts report by heading out to Westport. Checked in with Jason Colby this week on Little Sister Charters. They did really well on sea bass. We're still getting some nice fluke, still seeing some big scup in the area as well, and they had a little run-in with a great white shark this week. This wasn't a Jaws situation. It was just small, you know, like a 5-footer or something like that, but it took the better half of a big sea bass and hung around the boat long enough to get its picture taken and then took off. But I think that's interesting and very cool, and just thought you guys might enjoy hearing about it. Moving over into Rhode Island, the striper bite around Aquidneck Island that was so hot and so fierce to start off July has just slowly over the last 3 weeks just tapered off more and more. And I'm not, by any means, I'm not saying it's not worth it right now, but it's definitely tapered off a lot. Not seeing those 60-pound fish like we saw. We're not seeing a lot of 40-pound fish. There's still action for the boat anglers. Surf guys are struggling mightily. Your best bet is definitely going to be to fish with some kind of meat. You're going to chunk for them, you're going to fish live eels. That's going to give you your best shot at multiple hookups, and it's going to give you your best shot at getting a big one. For a little bit more on what's going on the eastern half of Rhode Island, let's toss it over now to TJ Kopecky.
Thanks, Dave. Hey guys, nice to be back. I had a week off last week, so spent a lot of time with the family, but did a lot of fishing too. So I got a lot of stuff to catch up on. Had a couple of outings last week. Mainly been trying to catch some bluefish in the Warren and Barrington rivers. The problem is there's lots and lots of little skipjack blues everywhere, so it's hard to catch them at night. I haven't seen any stripers in a while. The water's very dirty still. The Barrington a little bit more dirtier than the Warren, but I think with the coming weeks and not having rain, it's all gonna flush out. The Taunton River, same thing. The water's very, very stained and dirty. It's I feel like it's hard to catch fish. So what I did was I ended up headed out more towards the ocean. We were able to get out for a fluke and sea bass trip off of Sachets Point in Newport, and we're about 2.5 miles offshore. We started in 90 feet of water. We weren't really catching any fluke. We were catching more sea bass than anything, which was a good thing. We were able to get our limit on sea bass. We started moving into the 50-foot range, and I found a good ledge, probably just north of Paradise Island, if you're familiar with the area. And once we get on that ledge, in about 55 to 60 feet, we really started connecting with fluke, and I think the fluke bite really opened up. I'm seeing lots of reports from other charter guys that are fishing out in front of Newport that are doing really well with fluke. So I think going forward, the fluke bite's going to be better. And if you can catch those skipjacks, I caught my 3 fish a couple days in a row, and I'm using those skipjacks for bait, and it actually works out good. So I'm using a high-low rig with a gulp and a a strip of bluefish and just the regular spro bucktail on the bottom. Based on the current is, what you're going to use for lead. We used up to 6 ounces. I think we're moving pretty quick in 90 feet of water, but I was able to get to 2 ounces and fish comfortably with 10-pound test in the 50-foot range of water. So just based on which way your current and wind are. Other than that, Barrington Beach, it's got the same idea with the stained water still, but there are some bigger bluefish there. My surf buddies let me know. Just haven't seen any stripers there, and usually about this time when there's a lot of bait, there's tons and tons of bait. We've seen some stripers, but I really think that water is really, really warm up in the upper bay. So it's like keeping those stripers out more towards Newport still, which really good reports from Little Compton all the way across the Breton Reef for big stripers, people using tube and worm. I saw a couple guys out there with some live bait. Not sure what they had on, but I saw them tossing some either live pogies or maybe butterfish. But I can't confirm that. But we did catch a 20-pound blue while we were out there fluke fishing, which was a great surprise for us. So I just think that the blue fishing is really good, and it'll continue to pick up as these fish get bigger and bigger. And the fluke fishing should get better and better as we go through the remainder of July into August. So if you can get out there, tight lines, and we'll catch you next time.
And in place of those bass that have been slowly exiting Aquidneck Island, there have been some really big bluefish moving in. Some of these blues have approached the 20-pound class, and good numbers of fish in the like 10 to 14-pound class. So that's been exciting for anyone who just doesn't care what they bend a rod on, likes trolling, or especially those that like topwater action. These fish have been punishing topwater plugs, and it's been a great bite. Heading out toward Block Island, the sea bass fishing, the best sea bass fishing we're seeing is definitely out at Block. Also some really good striped bass fishing out on the ledge right now. The one thing I did hear though is that the stripers on the ledge have become a little more finicky over the last few days. They were taking soft plastics without, taking soft plastics and eels interchangeably. Now they're definitely focusing much more on the eels. Could be slower tides, who knows what it is, but right now you definitely want to make sure you got live eels on you if you're going to make the run. There have been some reports of fish pushing squid to the surface out there and just having all-out blitzes where you can get some topwater action. It's an amazing place and an amazing fishery. And for a little more on that and some of the other things in that region, let's toss it over now to Captain John Lee from JL Charters.
We've had another busy week. We've had a lot of charters, been out a lot, mostly bottom fish trips. We've had some good fluke trips, had a good one south of Block Island, had a good one up closer to Point Judith, but we had some bad ones mixed in. I've done no striped bass fishing. We're seeing a lot of chub mackerel mixed with Atlantic mackerel, and we got a bunch of wind coming, so it's Wednesday evening. We got a lot of southwesterlies coming Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So let's see what that does. Anyway, till next time, have a good one.
Now we're going to talk about some of the exotic species. We heard about a cobia taken off of Narragansett this week. We heard of some Spanish mackerel taken at the West Wall this week, along with some chub mackerel showing up there as well. And then there were triggerfish taken in the breachways. So a lot of those tropical fish are starting to move in now. And it won't be long before we see, some jacks and banded rudderfish moving in. And then not far behind them will be the albies. But we still got, 2 to 3 weeks anyway before the albies show up in Rhode Island. But it is interesting and notable to see all these tropical species showing up locally. Moving along the South County beaches now is probably your best bet for getting a fluke or a limit of fluke. There are lots of short fish along that area right now though, so you're going to have to work for your keepers. But if you don't mind grinding it out, you're going to find some keepers. You'll probably get your limit. You might get a few sea bass, and you're definitely going to get some skip. And the last place we're hearing about some good bass fishing right now is out on the Watch Hill Reefs. That's been ongoing. We're seeing more bluefish mixing in there this week as well. And that's what I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. Moving over into Connecticut, the race is hot for bluefish right now. There's lots of striped bass in the race as well, but We have really seen a lot of bluefish in the race, and some big ones. We got this awesome photo from 9-year-old Cameron here. This was his first big bluefish taken in the race. We also got a video, but it's kind of grainy, so I can't show it here. But wonderful, wonderful photo, and just love seeing that happy kid getting in on the action out of the race. Also, if you've never been to the race, or if you just want a little refresher course, we have an article in the August edition called The Amazing Race, written by Matt Broderick, and it covers bass, bluefish, black sea bass, and scup, and it's just a really good rundown on the race, so definitely want to check that out. Bluefish are dominating in a lot of areas right now, and the race being one of them, and then we're seeing them starting to dominate more and more toward the Connecticut River as well. The runoff coming out of the Connecticut River has finally started to subside. We're not seeing so much debris. The water's cleaned up. So things are starting to return to normal. Seeing more bass. We're seeing a lot more bluefish. And for a little bit more on that, we're going to toss it over now to Captain Mike Roy from Real Cash Charters.
Hey, what's up, guys? For this week's fish report, the striped bass are definitely in their summer patterns. All the reefs throughout Long Island Sound are holding stripers. They could range anywhere from 10 feet to over 100 feet. Top methods are 3-weighing live baits, and also been doing good with the Ben Parker flutter spoon. The white, the chartreuse, and chrome are the 3 colors I've been having success with. You could vertical jig soft plastics like a 9-inch sluggo, and that'll draw some bites. The schoolies feeding on the surface on small bait, they're going to hit small soft plastics like a 5-inch finesse fish or sluggo is going to work really well if you come across those. There's a lot of big bluefish throughout Long Island Sound. Look for those deeper reefs and rip lines. They're chewing up bait like crazy, so you can have fun. A lot of them are big, 10 to 13 pounds. And the sea bass fishing, I would look deep, 80 to 100 feet for the keeper sea bass. Good luck.
I was texting with Rowan Lytle earlier this week, and he sent me this photo of him with a monstrous carp that he got on the fly rod. This fish is over 30 pounds. Could possibly be one of the biggest fly rod caught freshwater fish in Connecticut ever. Not sure on that, but definitely would contend. I just wanted to make sure I congratulated him on that before we take a look at his video.
Hey everybody. So we're looking at continued very muddy conditions in the main stem of the Connecticut. It's still very high, not as high as it was, and coming down, and there's not as much floating debris, but the water itself is very murky. That's making one of the most productive ways to fish the river and any of the tributary mouths dead bait. The channel catfish have been on fire lately. I've been going out with clients and myself. I'm getting plenty on the fly in spots where I'm finding clearer water, but largely the best action's coming with dead bait, fall fish and bluegills in particular. And we're having nights where we're catching loads and loads of 10-pound fish. I was out last night, my buddy and I probably got about 120 pounds of channel catfish on the bank in just a few hours. It's crazy good action and a lot of fun. And until the river clears up and improves for bass fishing and targeting other species, that's going to be one of the best games in town. And it's good to get a lot of hard fighting, fairly big fish in fresh water. So go out there, give it a shot.
Now we're going to head out of the Connecticut River, and we're going to head over toward Westbrook and check in with Matt Stone from Black Hall Outfitters.
Water's clearing up with every tide from all that muck last week. High tide especially has been a good time to go with all that clean, clear water coming in. It's nice and cool as well. Bite's been good all around. Stripers are still here. Lots of good fish active. Dawn and dusk are definitely your hot spots still. We've got live eels biting well, tubes biting well, flutter spoons biting well, paddle tails, topwater poppers when the time is right for those as well. Bluefish are still around pretty heavily. There's been quite a few good bluefish out, especially in the race and the gut areas, but generally kind of all over. Fluke have been a little sporadic and inconsistent. Folks are still getting those, but be prepared to try a bunch of different stuff, different structures, different depths, things like that. Sea bass have also been pretty solid. 50 feet is a good starting point. Nomad, Squid Treks, Daiwa SK slow pitch jigs, any of your regular bait rigs are going to work well for those. Same thing with those sea bass. If you're drifting some bumps and humps, be prepared to move. Try a couple different places if the bite's not what you want it to be. And porgies are biting well pretty much everywhere. All depths offshore anglers are doing quite well with those guys as well. So there's a lot going on out there in the Sound. Hope you all have a great week. Good luck.
Heading out west to like Southwest Reef and 6 Mile and kind of out toward Clinton, all those little reefs and rock piles out that way. Word is that the action has held steady. It's been very good. There's a lot of bluefish. There's some big bass. There's some keeper-sized bass. Just excellent, excellent fishing. If you want to catch scup, you can catch as many as you want. That whole region has been holding its own. Very, very good fishing there. Heading out to the western part of the state, we're not going to be able to check in with Max today. Had a serious family emergency. I'd like everyone to say a prayer or send him good vibes or whatever. Hopefully everything turns out okay. But covering that end of the Sound, the best fishing right now has been for striped bass. They're pushed out away from the shoreline now. They're out in like 50, 60 feet of water. They're out near 11B. They're out near 28C. Guys are getting diamond jigging. Guys are getting free-weighing eels. Most of these fish are in the 15 to 30 pound class. There's a few bigger ones and quite a few smaller ones in the mix. Also some sizable bluefish in the area. Fluking has been tough, but if you want to bottom fish, you can definitely do well on the wrecks and rock piles for sea bass, or you can come up a little shallower and absolutely destroy the porgies. Fishing overall has been fantastic, and Connecticut's been just as hot as any other place. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman magazine, I highly recommend you head over to our website. That's thefisherman.com. It'll give you a full taste of what we offer. We cover everything from Delaware all the way up to Maine. We've got fishing reports that cover that entire area. We have articles to help you get in on all the fisheries that you could find in that area. And the website has enough free content to make it pretty clear of what we're made of. So definitely check that out. If you're not interested, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification every time we post something new. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.